Pros of Laravel. Artisan Command Line Interface. Laravel comes with a built-in command line interface called Artisan, which provides a number of helpful commands for common tasks. Eloquent ORM. Laravel's Eloquent ORM is simple and intuitive, making it easy to interact with databases. Blade Templating Engine. Laravel provides a simple and easy-to-learn templating engine, Blade, which is easy to use and provides powerful features for creating dynamic templates. Excellent documentation. Laravel has excellent documentation, which is easy to follow and helps developers get started quickly. Routing. Laravel provides a simple and intuitive routing mechanism, which makes it easy to define routes and handle incoming requests. Cons of Laravel. Steep learning curve. Laravel can be challenging to learn for new developers, especially if they have no prior experience with PHP or web development. Performance. Laravel is not optimized for high-performance applications, and its overhead can become a bottleneck for large-scale applications. Dependence on PHP. Laravel is a PHP framework, so it requires a PHP environment to run, which can be limiting for some developers. Community support. While Laravel has a large and active community, some developers may find it difficult to get the support they need for certain issues. Security. Laravel, like any web framework, requires constant updates and attention to security issues to ensure that it remains secure. On the other hand, pros of using Node.js as a web framework. Fast performance. Node.js uses JavaScript and V8, Google's high-performance JavaScript engine, to execute code, making it one of the fastest web development frameworks. Scalability. Node.js is designed to easily handle many simultaneous connections, making it highly scalable for real-time web applications. Full-stack JavaScript. With Node.js, you can use JavaScript on both the front-end and back-end, making it easier for full-stack JavaScript developers to work on a single project. Large community. Node.js has a large and active community that contributes to its development, bug fixes, and provides support to users. Cons of using Node.js as a web framework. Callback Hell. Node.js relies heavily on callbacks, which can lead to Callback Hell, making it difficult to write and maintain code. Single-threaded. Node.js is single-threaded, which means it can be less efficient when dealing with heavy CPU-bound tasks. Lack of library support. While Node.js has a large library of modules, it may not have the level of support and libraries available compared to other web development frameworks. Security risks. Node.js may have security risks due to its open-source nature and the use of many third-party modules, making it essential to properly secure your application. How do I know if I'll succeed as a programmer? When someone is considering a career change or is interested in software development and curious about what it takes, inevitably the question of programming comes up. In fact, I think this is a major barrier to entry in people's minds when they don't have any formal training in computing. It's natural to think that if you aren't good at programming, then your desire is a non-starter. It's kind of like if you want to be an actor and wonder if you'll be good at acting. As an educator that teaches full-stack web development, I have taught many first-time programmers. And the good news is that I have rarely found a student that couldn't learn to program. I see it as a basic human skill, just like reading, writing, and arithmetic. Anyone can do it. It is part of our human capacities, but does need to be learned. Over the past 2 years of teaching, I have witnessed various students struggle in the process, and some common themes that come up in their struggles. But if you are still committed to your goal of becoming a developer, you can easily face these issues and change. Programming is a basic human skill, just like reading, writing, and arithmetic. Anyone can learn to program with time and effort. Web development frameworks are an essential part of any development project that uses web technologies. A web framework helps developers build powerful digital products, saving time and other resources in the process. There are many different web frameworks, and although they are very useful for web development projects, the sole amount of alternatives has become a problem itself. Developers are faced with the difficulty of choosing the right alternative when building web apps. This becomes even worse for the case of companies. Being inexperienced in such technical matters, they usually rely on third parties to choose the best framework for web development for them. If your company is facing such a challenge, the first thing you might want to do is understand what web development frameworks are and how they can benefit your web app project. We discuss what web development frameworks are and what are some of the best alternatives for any web development project. What are web development frameworks? A web development framework, also known as a web application framework, is a software tool that supports developers throughout the development of a web product. Any web framework usually includes a number of pre-built libraries that facilitate developers' work. Libraries allow developers to use built-in functions, features, processes, and conventions, saving them valuable time and other resources. More importantly, a web framework makes it easier for developers to develop web applications. Some of the web products that can be built using a web development framework include web services, web apps, web APIs, and other web resources. In particular, because of web apps, developers refer to specific frameworks as web application frameworks. It is rare to find web apps that are built without using any web application framework. By using an existing web development framework for web development, a web app development team can reuse important pieces of code and, at the same time, standardize important parts of the process. This helps improve developers' experience when building an app, making the app building process faster and more efficient. At the same time, a web framework helps guarantee that certain protocols and security standards are met, helping improve the overall user experience, UX, even if the user is unaware of it. In other words, a web application framework is a must-have tool in any web app development project. What is a web app? In case you are not familiar with what a web application is, there's no problem. Just keep in mind that it is almost like a regular app, but instead of running locally on the device, it runs most of its processes directly on a server. Additionally, a web app differs from a regular app in an important way. Normally, an app needs to be installed directly into your phone. A web app, on the contrary, does not need to be installed as it runs directly on a web browser. Server-side and user-side web frameworks. An important aspect to keep in mind when using a web development framework is whether the intended tool is aimed at building the server-side or the user-side of a web app. A server-side web framework is also known as a back-end framework. This type of web development framework is responsible for all that goes on in web apps behind the user interface. Data processing and system requests are examples of some of the things that occur on the server side. Contrary to a server-side web framework, a user-side framework, known as a front-end web framework, is used to build the user-facing components of a web application. This mostly refers to elements that make up the user interface. It is important that designers understand the logic behind user-facing web frameworks, as this can make developers' jobs easier. Best web development frameworks. When it comes to web development, there are many different web development frameworks to choose from. Some of them are great for building progressive web apps or single-page web apps. Here are some of the most important ones so that you make the best out of your web project. Some of them are used for back-end, front-end, or both. Ruby on Rails is an open-source framework that uses the Ruby programming language to build web apps in an easy and smart way. There are many different libraries that help developers integrate existing code into a project. Developers enjoy using the Ruby on Rails framework thanks to all the capabilities it offers, but especially because of the large community of developers who help one another. That is why some of the world's best apps are built using Ruby on Rails. It can be used for both back-end and front-end, and it is great for building progressive web applications. React. In its short existence, React.js has gained popularity among web developers. This is an open-source library that uses JavaScript as its programming language. It can be used to build web apps in a single page through powerful user interfaces thanks to its front-end capabilities. Thanks to its containers that divide the interface into different and easy-to-edit parts, it helps build powerful designs that users love. This framework comes with many different tools that aid developers at the moment of building web apps. Django. The Django web framework uses Python as its programming language for front-end and back-end. It has the power to help web developers build an application in a short amount of time. For this reason, it is a great alternative, especially if you want to build an MVP. Some of the strengths of using this framework for building a web app are that products can easily scale and they can integrate machine learning features. However, one of the negative sides of it is that, depending on the type of app, it can be somewhat slow. Nonetheless, this last depends on many other factors, so don't let it demotivate you from using Django. Laravel. Laravel is a server-side open-source framework that uses PHP as its programming language. There are many different resources available for developers to learn about it, making it a great alternative for beginners. It uses the Model View Controller architectural pattern, making it ideal for many business web apps. AngularJS. Angular is a web development framework developed by Google, which somewhat explains its popularity. This open-source framework uses JavaScript as its programming language, making it a great alternative for front-end developers. Like React.js, Angular is used to build single-page web apps. Web development frameworks. Wrapping it up. There are other great web frameworks that can be used to build web apps. This is just a list of the most popular ones and some of the ones we use on a daily basis. As a web development company, we understand the importance of choosing the right alternative for your project. Although it sometimes seems like a waste of time, having important discussions about the technology that a web app will use can be a key strategic decision, one that can save you many headaches in the long term. Collaborating with other programmers and contributing to open source projects can provide invaluable experience, help you build relationships, and increase your visibility in the community. Sharing your knowledge and helping others can also be a rewarding experience. Just remember, every mistake is an opportunity to learn and grow. May you embrace every challenge as a chance to become a better programmer, and may you always have the courage to try new things. Good luck!